The man instinctively extinguished his cigarette with his fingers, which immediately aroused the police officer's suspicion. The officer suspected he was one of the criminals from 7 years ago. The man had been an auxiliary police officer for 6 years, always rushing to the front line during missions. But he was indeed one of the criminals from 7 years ago, all because he left half a fingerprint at the crime scene. Since then, he developed the habit of extinguishing cigarettes with his fingers. He chose to become an auxiliary officer to atone for his sins, and his position could help conceal his past crimes. If he hadn't been assigned to the same team as this officer, he might never have been discovered. This officer had a keen insight into criminals, able to spot issues with just a glance. Following the officer's signal, the auxiliary officer floored the gas pedal to cut off a suspect, when the officer suddenly cocked his gun. At first, the auxiliary officer thought the officer had made a mistake, until they actually found a gun during the search. Only then did he realize how formidable this officer was. He planned to resign, because in front of this officer, he couldn't hide his secrets at all. The next day, he brought his resignation letter to the officer, but found him in the middle of an angry outburst. Intimidated by the officer's intensity, he backed down. He feared being questioned about his reasons for quitting, yet the officer thought highly of him, saying he could become a criminal investigator someday, looking forward to him becoming a full-fledged officer. But he knew clearly the crimes he had committed. That day they went to an abandoned factory to apprehend criminals. The auxiliary officer accidentally fell into water. His foot caught in a wire mesh. At the critical moment, the officer dove in and used all his strength to save him. After returning home, the auxiliary officer threw away his resignation letter. He prepared to face whatever came next, but hoped it would be after he found redemption. It turned out his daughter wasn't his biological child, but an infant left behind by the family he had victimized. The girl had a congenital heart condition. He adopted her to atone for his sins, but after 7 years together, the girl became the most important person in his life. Coincidentally, this case was the officer's first major investigation. The case had left a deep impression on the officer. The auxiliary officer suspected he had been discovered. In his panic, he lost control of the steering wheel, nearly causing an accident. He feared his cover was blown. Just then, a small dog appeared behind the car, preventing the officer from noticing his reaction. But soon after, he revealed a fatal flaw. The auxiliary officer's instinctive habit of extinguishing cigarettes with his fingers immediately aroused the officer's suspicion, because normal people don't do that. It's typically a habit of criminals. At that moment, he knew the officer was onto him completely.